Alright, welcome to another MTG Challengers. Today we have Temur Monsters, piloted by Aaron Kirk on the left, and Jeskai Burn, piloted by Matthew Osby on the right. My name's Alex Reed, and I have my friend here, Casey Hall. Say hi to the folks at home.
Hello, all you beautiful people.
And we'll be commentating this match. And, well, first of all, we've got a pretty funny shuffling method here. But to scratch that, let's talk about the decks in general. Let's get some info out here. Let's start with Temur Monsters. You've got green, red, blue. A lot of versatility. You have guys that create mana. You've got Courser, Crewfix. You've got all the big creatures from mono green. Essentially, you have the potential to play any of that, and you've got your versatility afforded by the extra two colors. Your red and your blue give you a lot of breathing room. Stormbreath Dragon's one. You got Suruk Dragonclaw. He's a big, powerful creature with flash. That's even better. There's just a lot of versatility afforded to three colors. What do you think about the Rug Monsters list?
I think it's very versatile. I also think that Jeskai Ascendancy is versatile as well. You got the America combination of colors, the red, white, and blue, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this matchup plays out because both decks can just run these three colors very effectively.
Definitely agree with your point there. Three colors overall. This format is entirely based on three colors, so it's definitely very interesting to see a matchup like this, where you have three colors versus three colors.
Also, another thing interesting, they both run red and blue.
Yeah, when you have a combined number of colors, it's always interesting to see which cards overlap and kind of give you an idea of what cards are not just good in the decks, but good overall in the format. It's a very good point. Let's see what kind of ringers do these decks bring for each other. And what do we think this matchup's going to look like for game one? You got, for the Temur Monsters list, you got small creature, small creature, small creature, and then a bunch of really big creatures. So how do we think that's going to go against a deck that just runs small creatures for the whole deck?
I think Anger of the Gods is definitely going to be a key card here. I'll get rid of some of those small creatures. If he does get the big creatures out, though, then you're going to have to start seeing how Jeskai Ascendancy is going to play around that. Whether they're just going to try to burn them to death at that point, or if they have something else that they can use to deal with that.
Yeah, this Jeskai Burn deck is as versatile as it is. It doesn't really play any true removal. This list that's brought in to us, we're seeing that main deck it plays 3 Xenagos, 2 Sarkans, and 2 Kioras. So even further pushing the versatility of the deck by the just raw amount of power that a Planeswalker possesses with the way the Planeswalker abilities work in the game. Will be very interesting to see. Let's see, we're moving on to gameplay now. They've drawn opening hands, but neither opening hand looks particularly promising. It looks like Matthew has a pretty good hand over here, but it's still not the best. We're starting with Aaron on turn 1. He's going to scry off his temple. He's going to leave it on top. Probably something like a Caryatid. His opening hand was nothing but big cards, and he only had 2 mana, so it's either probably a land or a Caryatid. And he draws it. We see now it's a land. So now he's going to play another land for the turn and try to accelerate.
Yeah, if he gets to that point where it accelerates, gets those big creatures out, that could end up being pretty fatal.
Now, let's see, it's a pretty interesting opening hand here, though. He's got 2 Xenagoses and a Sarkhan, like we were just saying. A lot of Planeswalkers in the main deck here. And Xenagos will definitely make things a little bit different. He's going to fetch his Wooded Foothills, so he'll lose life there. Grab a mountain. Let's see. Matthew, we know, has a Mantis Rider and a Goblin Realm Master in his hand. So likely He's either going to sit this turn here and bluff the counterspell, and then just play a creature next turn. But his likelihood, the likelihood that his play could change, depends largely on what Aaron does here in his turn 3. See, going back to Matthew's hand, he's drawn a second Mantis Rider since the beginning of the game. And he has more than enough land to do anything. He's got 3 more lands in his hand.
Be interesting to see if he gets both of those out during this game.
Let's see, Aaron draws, and he's thinking at 3. He knows he has his Courser of Crufix in his hand, but the decision is, does he want to play the Courser of Crufix, or does he play the Savage Knuckleblade?
I personally like Courser of Crufix just because of what the matchup is against Burn. Life gain.
Life gain doesn't hurt you. Still trying to make this decision, because that's what the Shivan Reef is going to decide right here. He plays the Shivan Reef, he plays the Savage Knuckleblade. He plays the Wooded Foothills, he can play either. Just trying to decide, really, which land does he want to play? Does he want to broadcast the best possible land combination in his deck by showing all 3 colors, by keeping the Shivan Reef, or does he go for basic lands and telegraph less possible chances?
I'm more of a player who wants to get the best possible choices out there, so
play as many dual lands as you can.
Play as many dual lands, but matchup wise, you could do either right here.
I definitely think neither one is a wrong play, but if he plays the Wooded Foothills here and gets a forest, he still telegraphs that he has all 3 of his colors. He just won't have double of anything except for green. So whether he were to play the Savage Knuckleblade or the Courser, I think Wooded Foothills is definitely the safe play, as long as he fetches out a forest.
Yeah, I always like to play a little bit safe against a burn deck, and 3-color one like this one, that's the one I would choose. But we're gonna see what he picks.
I'll go ahead and another Wooded Foothills. Okay. Tap and sack. Alright.
Okay. Fetches the Wooded Foothills, he'll lose another life. And grabs his forest here. Obviously, like we were saying, we still don't know what he's gonna choose. He'd choose just about anything. He'd play either one, the Courser or the Savage Knuckleblade here. Both are just as likely of a choice right now. Matthew does not have the ability to counter this early in the game, besides a Disdainful Stroke, which would not hit either one of the spells that Aaron wants to play. So either play is relevant here. He does have a land in his hand, so he knows that Courser is a safe play here, because he'll be able to play a land and gain a life on the following turn. Savage Knuckleblade, not nearly as reliable, because he can play it, but he can't give it haste. So that's the options here. I think Courser becomes the safer option to play.
I would definitely play Courser here. I'm in favor of the life gain, and also if he had a burn, if Jeskai had a burn spell in their hand, you might make him waste a burn spell on a Courser. And he plays the Courser.
Pretty difficult here, this Temur Monsters deck. Anything that's worthwhile to kill is going to be so big that only Soak the Flames can burn it out. So either he's going to have to play Stoke the Flames on a creature, or he'll have to play 2 burn spells together to kill a creature, or play a burn spell post-combat. Matthew plays a Mantis Rider, but he has to take 1 to do it off the Shivan Reef. Swings in for 3.
Wonder if he's going to play that second Courser now.
I think it's still a good play. He has a lot of options on this turn, though. He can either play the Courser and play the land off the top and try to keep rolling with the punches. But he also has the ability to play the land in his hand, which would put him behind. You don't really ever want to skip the land off the top of the deck. But he could do it and play Xenagos, or play the Savage Knuckleblade and give it haste. Whichever is really his preference, because this Courser Crewfix is not going to get through for any damage with this Mantis Rider on the table. So, really limited choices. I think he could just play the Courser and play it safe.
That's my second Courser.
And that's what he does.
Okay, puts Temple of Abandon down, gains 2. He shows top card, goes through his Scry trigger. We know he doesn't have anything in his hand more expensive than 5, so the Shivan Reef in his hand is probably all he needs. He could afford to scry that Temple of Epiphany to the bottom if he wanted to.
What do I want to do with that?
Personally speaking, I'd say it's not really too rough of a choice. Put it to the bottom, because once he plays that Shivan Reef, he'll have the ability through all of his lands to tap for double of every one of his colors. So effectively there you've covered all of your bases in this deck, because nothing costs more than 2 of any single color. You've got a lot of stuff that costs 1, and several things that cost double mana of their color, like Sarkhan or Courser.
Right. At that point, you really wouldn't really need much more mana for anything else in your deck.
Also, pretty good card to see here on the top. He's got a Magma Jet. He can go into his next turn and play the Savage Knuckleblade and just start getting in there with damage, or even play the Xenagos. But Magma Jet's a very good card to keep up with. And that's going to hurt.
Mantis Rider.
Second Mantis Rider comes down and swings in for 6 damage. He's going to need all the land drops he can hit now to gain all this life.
I would almost want to play Xenagos right now just to force him to deal with something.
I think right now the play should be to play the Sarkhan and just kill one of the Mantis Riders and make him draw the heat off of his own face, you know, make him attack the Sarkhan so that he doesn't lose more life next turn. Because like we said earlier, neither one of these decks have a true removal spell. It's all burn power or pit fighting on the part of the Temur Monsters with the Polychronos Monstrous effect. But there's no true removal. You've got to either deal with what's there with what you have, or you just try to go around it.
He's thinking about it.
Not a bad choice. You see, he was thinking about this Magma Jet in his hand. He could attack with the Coursers, see what Matthew does, and if he blocks, he could burn out one of the Mantis Riders for the rest of the damage and still be able to play the Savage Knuckleblade in his hand. However, Matthew's got a very good follow-up hand for his next turn. He's got a Lightning Strike and a Searing Blood, as well as a Goblin Rabble Master.
And that's a lot of damage. As well as board presence.
As well as enough burn damage between the Searing Blood and the Lightning Strike to kill either a Courser or the Savage Knuckleblade, if it were to come down. He could also play the burn spell like Lightning Strike to kill Sarkhan, and just bypass the process entirely and keep hitting damage straight to Aaron's life total. Not a very good position for Aaron. You see, he's really thinking this process through. Like I said, I definitely like the line of play to play just the Sarkhan.
Well, that would be a pretty good play. You don't have very much removal, so play around with it.
I think Sarkhan is a good line of play more than just to destroy the Mantis Rider. But if he destroys one of the Mantis Riders, then he moves to his combat, and he has 2 attackers as opposed to 1 blocker, so he's going to get through with some damage also to Matthew's life total. He knows the next card of his deck is not helpful at all. Whatever he does here is just got to be powerful. pretty interesting gameplay so far. You start with Aaron, who started with a versatile hand with several lines of play, and Matthew, who had a very dead set hand with only one true option to just play a creature and start attacking.
And here he plays the Sarkhan. And he made it a 4/4 dragon with flying, of course. The indestructibility with haste.
Very interesting line of play. I think I definitely would have chose to deal damage to one of the Mantis Riders.
Maybe he just wants to go straight for the life total.
Kind of an incorrect line of play here. The Sarkhan actually remains tapped, although it stops being a creature. It doesn't force itself to untap.
So strike your Courser.
Killing off the Courser.
Definitely a good move to deal enough damage to it, get it out of the way before he can gain more life on the
3 damage to Sarkhan. Okay. Oh wow.
And then
on the trigger.
Bringing Sarkhan down as well.
Pretty nice move here by Matthew. He decides to lightning strike the Courser, and then after that deals the Searing Blood and chooses to redirect the 3 damage that would go to Aaron to the Sarkhan, which made it easier to kill Sarkhan with one of the Mantis Riders. Very good line of play. First time I can honestly say that I've seen Searing Blood redirected.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the correct line of play.
Here we go. We have a little bit of a game state issue. Courser should have the top card revealed. They've failed to maintain that so far. It's not an uncommon issue, and it's not seriously punishable. It's just something that has to be corrected before the deck is changed any by drawing or using a fetch land.
Right, and there they correct it.
He shows a Paul Kranos, which still was really not going to do him much good here at all. He's got to do something about these Mantis Riders.
We have yep. Go ahead and 0. Alright.
Okay, let's see. Aaron goes and he plays a Xenagos. Let's see which ability he chooses. He chooses to make a Satyr token.
Swinging. Just that one.
So he's just kind of trying to defend himself right now from these.
I think his idea here is to try to attack and force a Mantis Rider to block. Yeah, now he's got this. Now he's got this Magma Jet in his hand, which becomes a relevant card. He can kill one of these Mantis Riders.
I will.
He's also going to get to scry too, so he gets to look at the card underneath the Paul Kranos. Matthew doesn't get to see it though. Looks like a hard decision here. He's really thinking about whether or not he wants the card. Looks like Kiora, if you ask me. I definitely think that that's a wise choice. Play the Kiora. Use her +1 ability on the Mantis Rider.
He's really having to think hard about this.
He decides not to take it. It would buy him a lot of time. I think it really would have been the proper choice. funny thing about Cure's ability, a lot of people don't know this. If you read the wording, it's target permanent and opponent controls. You can target a planeswalker such as Sarkin, and then when it becomes a creature, it still won't deal any damage because it's still the same permanent. It just changed from being a planeswalker to a creature.
Master. It's getting dirty.
Matthew plays a Monastery Swiftspear and a Goblin Ravenmaster and still has enough mana to play Lightning Strike. Triggers his prowess on his Monastery Swiftspear. Very, very effective turn.
Kills Xenagos, and now he only has a Courser left. And now he's going to be creating an army with the Goblin.
It's 3 tokens, dang it. Yeah.
See,
or at least that's his plan.
It's a smart move here. You have to decide when you block. Do you want to block the most amount of damage, or do you want to block the Goblin token and try to keep Goblin Ravenmaster small? Because Monastery Swiftspear is currently a 2/3, so Monastery Swiftspear won't die when he blocks it. He decides to block the Swiftspear, takes some more damage here in combat, 4 points of damage. Wow, so he draws his card. We know it's Paul Kranos that he draws, and he flips and reveals a second Paul Kranos in a row on the top.
That's not helpful at all.
Paul Kranos could be helpful if it was earlier in the game. He's very low life total now, and he doesn't have enough time to really do much else besides just play the Paul Kranos. Now, with 6 mana, he can't play any 2 of the things in his hand. He's got to pick one. He could play this Rattleclaw Mystic, but he still can only play one of the other cards in his hand as well. Might help, though, to play the Rattleclaw Mystic to give him more mana for his following turn if he wants to Monstrous Paul Kranos. He's got to be able to get rid of this Mantis Rider.
And he plays Paul Kranos.
And Rattleclaw Mystic.
Esther?
If he can survive this turn without losing either the Rattleclaw or the Paul Kranos, he'll be able to Monstrous for just enough to kill the Mantis Rider. But it looks like that's not what's going to happen. We see Matthew's hand. He drew a Stoke the Flames, which is just about the best card he could have drawn in this situation.
And it looks like that is game.
Really annoying.
Well, off to round 2. Going into sideboards now.
Let's take a look here. That was a pretty solid game on both sides of the board. Just definitely a more aggro base offense here. Just came down really, really early from the Jeskai deck. Let's see, what do we think here? We've got Temur Monsters. Got a pretty decent sideboard to bring in. Board in a couple of Anger of the Gods here. You've got the option for negates as well. Definitely an effective card against the Jeskai deck. Counter any of the burn spells, anything besides the Rabble Masters, the Swiftspears, the Mantis Riders. You also got 3 Nylia's Disciples in this sideboard. Definitely a very good card to bring in more life gain. Whether you can use the life gain for any large amount or not, it definitely helps as you go through.
Question is here, what is he going to take out for all those effective cards in this matchup?
Definitely a good question. Probably some of these Planeswalkers that I would think. Some of these Planeswalkers that may not have done him nearly as much good could be a good idea to move some of them out.
It looks like you grabbed the do believe I saw that he grabbed the Nylia's Disciples immediately, put him immediately down.
He's grabbing the Anger of the Gods
and
now.
The Anger, and that's what I personally probably would have done.
I think as well he should bring in the negates.
He's thinking about bringing in the negates, and there it is.
Okay. He also is considering bringing in the Chandra that's in the board as well. Let's take a look on the opposite side here. We've got sideboard options for the Jeskai Burn deck. You have Anger of the Gods to bring in as well. Not necessarily as effective as the Temur list playing it against him, but you can Anger the Gods and take away any Rattleclaw Mystics or Sylvan Caryatids that they may have on the board. Banishing Lights, definitely a good choice, because like we said, they don't have any true removal. Banishing Light definitely helps out in that instance. They've got Disdainful Strokes. It's a good choice to bring in, I'm sure, as well as Seeker of the Way to help them sustain. Seeker of the Way is 2/2 with prowess, and anytime you cast a non-creature spell, he gains lifelink until the end of the turn. So you just have to cast any non-creature spell, and he goes from being a 2/2 to a 3/3 with lifelink. He's very effective, very good. Definitely an option. You have also, depending on how they think the matchup is going to turn, you've got a couple of sideboard options for a little bit of a grindier matchup. The Jeskai deck has a Keranos and a Stormbreath that they could bring in. Temur Monsters also has some cards for the grindy matchups. He's got an extra Chandra, which we saw. Aaron is trying to make some space for that in the deck right now. Possible extra cards to bring in. He's got a couple of Temur Charms in the graveyard, which could be pretty good to counter an early game burn spell.
He took out a Polykranos that I've seen.
Let's see what else he decides to take out. Not exceptionally good sideboard cards for this matchup, like we said, besides the Negate and the Anger of the Gods and the Nylia's Disciples. It'll probably be just about everything that he brings in, except for the Chandra. Let's see, what do we think here? Going into game 2, we just saw how drastic game 1 was, just completely one-sided. What is the opinion with all the sideboard cards coming in? Should game 2 be more fair and more 50-50? Or do we think that any one deck maintains versatility over the other?
I think it's going to be a little bit more even, but maybe more along the lines of 60-40 even instead of a 50-50. In favor of Jeskai, of course.
I would agree with that. I would say that just the sheer speed of the Jeskai deck outmatches the ramp power of the Temur deck. We've got Matthew choosing the last couple of side ins and outs, and then we'll be ready to move on to game 2, and Aaron will be on the play going into game 2. Let's see if this extra turn, being up 1 land for the whole game, can make a big enough difference for him to pull out.
1 land can sometimes make all the difference, especially in this matchup. I feel.
Hopefully I'll be able to come back after that. I'll be on the play. Alright.
Alright, here we go on to game 2. Let's see our players draw their opening hands. Okay, let's see what we've got. We've got Aaron's opening hand. We've got 3 lands, a Sylvan Caryatid, a Rattleclaw Mystic, a Stormbreath Dragon, and a Nylea's Disciple. In Matthew's opening hand, we've got 4 lands, a Mantis Rider, a Jeskai Charm, and the last card I can't really see from here.
Those are both solid opening hands.
Aaron decided to start with a Scryland, of course, the best combination. Now he can go into one of these Pain lands in his hand here and play either the Rattleclaw Mystic or the Sylvan Caryatid.
Goes with that Caryatid. Get that more mana so you can ramp up to a bigger creature.
It's going to speed up his process. If he goes through and plays the Rattleclaw this following turn, he will be able to go into a turn 4 Stormbreath Dragon.
That is a very scary sight to see.
And here's an even scarier sight. Monastery Swiftspear. Now we'll also see how this affects the gameplay. We just saw Matthew's hand here, and he's got a Searing Blood, which is going to make this Rattleclaw Mystic nearly ineffective completely. Again, like we were saying, on the play here of Aaron, we realize now that he still has an extra land in his hand. So even if he were to play this Rattleclaw Mystic here, and it were to be killed by the Searing Blood that we know Matthew has in his hand, he would still be able to play Stormbreath Dragon the following turn, which is probably going to be his best bet for this match, especially if he can get Matthew to play the Searing Blood and kill the Rattleclaw. It will be one less burn card that can deal damage to the Stormbreath Dragon. What's this last card Matthew has in his hand here? Can't exactly tell from here. It looks like it might be a Stormbreath Dragon of his own.
And there comes that Mantis Rider.
Mantis Rider. Yep.
That's a really scary sight to see.
Flying Vigilance Haste. That's 3 damage right there. I'll just play it and go.
With Monastery Swiftspear on the table.
Now this is a little bit of a scary sight here for Aaron. He has the ability to play Anger of the Gods right now, but if he does, he'll wipe his own board as well as Matthew's board.
And I'm thinking he really wants to get that Stormbreath out.
Well, let's see. He's got the land in his hand, so if he plays the Anger this turn, he can still play the Stormbreath next turn. He just has to decide how badly he wants to get rid of this Mantis Rider. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like Matthew has the Goblin Rabble Master in his hand as well. He won't particularly care if he plays this Anger of the Gods now, because he'll just follow it up with another creature. Pretty good hand over here for Matthew. Moderate hand for Aaron on the Temur Monsters side.
It is definitely looking 60-40 right about now.
I would again agree with your statement for the 60-40 benefit as far as the Jeskai deck is concerned.
He's thinking about it.
If he needs to do it, he needs to do it now. Matthew's tapped out. He doesn't have the ability not only to counter, but he has no capability to activate any prowess triggers to let these Swiftspears survive the Anger of the Gods. So he really needs to decide if he's going to do it, it needs to be now. Although, how much better would it be if he were to wait until next turn?
Red.
And he decides to play the Storm Breath now.
Yeah.
It'll be a very lucky move for everyone concerned. Let's see, if Aaron could get just lucky, just really lucky, and Matthew decides to just go all in, if he plays his Goblin Rabblemaster on this following turn, and Aaron can manage to land an Anger of the Gods for everything possible, it'll just be beyond good value.
That would be an interesting play to see.
It definitely looks like this last card in Matthew's hand is a Stormbreath Dragon, although we can't really see it.
Well, that is one answer to Stormbreath Dragon. Just play one of your own.
Oh.
But he plays the Rabblemaster.
He plays the Rabblemaster. This is going to be... First of all, this is going to be a lot of damage dealt to Aaron here. Second, the Anger of the Gods would be an extremely interesting play.
And if Anger of the Gods is not played, he just might outdamage.
Yeah, I think that Aaron's definitely left with no good choice besides playing the Anger of the Gods right now. Looks like he drew another land this turn. He can tap the Caryatid to make a red mana.
Yeah, I will mountain.
Decides to play the Mountain.
Red.
Looks like he's going to play the Anger of the Gods.
Anger of the Gods.
There it is. And it doesn't look like he can play anything to trigger prowess.
Who's my Caryatid, but it's really worth
So
it.
all of his creatures die.
Kind of getting out of hand.
The Stormbreath survives, and he can attack with it if he decides here. 4 damage. That's good. Puts Aaron back into the game. Unfortunately for Aaron, Matthew has 3 burn spells in hand now, which is effective enough to kill the Stormbreath.
And he attacks with Stormbreath. But it looks like he has something in response.
He's going to have to take a lot of damage to do this.
He is.
He takes 2 to play the Searing Blood, but the damage output that he gets back in response, he deals 3 to Aaron when the Stormbreath dies. Very good trade-off. We know he still has 6 points of burn damage in his hand. This game could very well be over.
Anything else? No, here we go. Okay.
He draws a land, which will allow him to play the Stormbreath in his hand.
Not just any land.
It's a mana confluence, so he has to take 1 to do this, but he would have had to take 1 to produce a second red Thorse either way.
Yep. 4. Go ahead. Oh, there went that game. Man, it sucks. What are you doing? You don't get it. I'll explain to you after the game. Shaven Reef. Yeah. Gotta do something.
Play the Nihilist Disciple in his hand to gain any kind of value. He has to play it by itself. Because to play this Rattleclaw Mystic first, he'll have to take 1 damage to play the Rattleclaw and 1 to play the Nihilist Disciple. He's only going to gain 1 life out of this exchange, no matter which way it goes.
And that's usually
Disciple, you gain 3.
not what you want out of Nihilist Disciple.
Okay. I'm gonna lose.
Either way, looks like this game is just about done. And, of course, Matthew draws into a Stoke the Flames. 1 more burn spell.
Any burn spell in your hand.
I just don't think it could have gotten much worse.
I mean, like this. Yeah, that'll do it.
And that's just enough damage.
Right.
He gives Jeskai Charm to deal 4. Goes to say he's going to attack with Stormbreath. Shows lethal damage. And so Aaron concedes the game. He scoops up. And that is Jeskai Burn winning in 2 games over Temur Monsters. Very interesting matchups. Very
60-40.
60-40. I still agree with your statement.
60-40.
Well, that's all for this commentary. Thanks for watching MTG Challengers. Come on back. We love to see y'all watching. We love to see your comments. Join us again next time.